What's up, X-Geners? It's your boy Chris and Chris, the other boy Chris, and we're back at it with another video. If you are on our Facebook page, you might have saw that I posted a video of Chris pulling up in the Supra and him getting the one and only Hondata direct injection fuel upgrade system. So we're gonna be getting this going on the car today as well. We got the Type R on the rack right behind us, and we'll be enabling everything and kind of walking by step what exactly this kit is going to be doing, and how it benefits you, and kind of how to enable it, and we'll show you all the cool stuff. So stay tuned. Type R direct injection fuel system upgrade kit, again from Hondata. Huge shout out to Hondata. Let's get this going and see what we got here. Open up the magic box. All right, so we got some Hondata stickers. That's awesome. Here's the actual install pamphlet. We'll check that out here in just a minute. Let's see what's behind here. Whoa. All right, so it looks like we have some upgraded fuel lines here. Here's one line and here's another. It looks like it's our software key. In order to activate it in the Hondata FlashPro, you will need that software key. So do not lose that, it is fairly important. Here's our low pressure fuel pump, brought to you by Hondata. This is actually going to go in the tank into our bucket, and we'll show you how all that works. We've got the high pressure fuel pump from Hondata as well. Look at that precision, looks really good. And again, all of this bolts up, nothing requires any modification, just plug and play. And for one of our favorite parts, our injectors. So these are high flow injectors, they look really cool. We have a total of 4. I'll be laying them all out here. They all have their protective covers, and there we have it. So we'll have this kit undergo in just a minute, kind of give you a better understanding of how everything works. So if you've ever asked yourself how the high pressure fuel system works in the Honda, it's fairly simple. I've been learning and kind of knowing about the high pressure fuel systems for a couple of years now. I was brought into the scene a long time ago, but Honda's just getting into it, and it seems like they're doing a pretty good job, except that they forgot about the Type R, the most important car that they have. Fairly simple. This goes in your gas tank, sucks fuel in, pumps it, pushes it through lines that are underneath the vehicle. Once it goes underneath the vehicle, it passes through a couple of hard lines and soft hoses, which actually come into play with the Siri Moto kit right here. Once it gets all the way up to the fuel rail, it is brought to this high pressure fuel pump. And what this does, it is driven by the camshaft lobe. So every time the engine turns over, this actually pushes up, and this pump creates mechanical pressure. So it takes from this pump, let's say it made 40 psi fuel pressure, this pump will now take that and make it to 1,000 psi fuel pressure. So it atomizes the fuel, providing the injectors a lot higher flow of fuel, and it's almost like the fuel is vapor because it's so strong. But that is pretty much how the high pressure fuel system works. The injectors are now located into the combustion chamber, bringing the face of the injector really close to the piston, probably let's say about yay close, and that creates more power, better fuel economy, and all the extra goodies that come along with the direct injection system. So we'll get this kit undergo here in just a sec and get y'all ready to rock and roll. Now for your direct injection fuel system upgrade for Hondata, only way it's gonna work, you gotta have one of these bad boys, the Hondata FlashPro, the key to making all the power, the best tuning solution. All right, so to gain access to the fuel tank, you gotta get this back seat out. So right here in the dead center of the seat, you're actually gonna push down, and under here there's a release tab, which you're gonna pull in such direction. And that's actually gonna release the seat and bring you up just like that. There's 2 10mm bolts, one on that side and one on the other, and that'll give us some access here to the fuel tank. That way we can relieve the fuel pressure. Now we're removing the pump, getting the actual sending unit out of the tank, and go from there.
All right, so far so good. No major fuel spraying out or nothing. So this there's supposed to be a special tool to remove this cage, they call it, basically to lock up the thing. You know, like you see it on the picture, it has the teeth to grab right here. So if you don't have the tool, which we don't in this case, we're just gonna go have a flathead screwdriver, chisel, whatever you want, and a hammer, and in different areas, kind of hit it in that circular motion to pop it off. I'm gonna start right here because it's the easiest accessible area.
It is threaded on, so think of it as you are unthreading the top cover lid.
It kind of cocks it in one area, right? So I like to hit other spots. Not to put too much pressure on the tank. line in there. It was real tight, so I just kind of waited to pop it open to swing that out of the way. And then we'll go ahead and take this ring off. Okay. So, the line went in under me. Cock blocking. Just push that back down. It's got another line you disconnect from the bottom. Looks like it goes to the pipes. Yeah.
Here comes the actual bucket.
Float is caught on the line. Of course.
And you got some fuel in there?
Yeah, my fuel level sensor. Whenever you pull these guys out, it's always a good idea to make sure that fuel level sensor doesn't get caught anything on the way back in. Otherwise, your car will never know how much gas you have.
Just getting the pump all emptied up. It's got a fresh batch of 100 octane in there, huh?
Oh, yeah, this thing's been on 100 octane for 8,000 miles maybe. Hardly got 12,000.
All right, so you gotta let the 3 fuel pump cage clips loose. So there's one clip here on the front. There's another clip on the back. The filter on the bottom there.
Don't take them off without breaking them.
Luckily, this hasn't been sitting in the tank for 40 years. That would probably break off. All right, so 3 clips are off. Keep on coming, girl. Just like that, the stock pump comes out. So we got a little side-by-side comparison on how big the Hondata is versus the stock Type R, and then I mean you can see side by side it's at least 30 to 40% bigger. On the bottom of everything, forgot to bring this out in the very first part of the video, there's actually new connectors
and a new fuel filter.
Shout out Hondata.
The beginning steps of installing the Hondata fuel kit. The first step is installing the low pressure fuel pump. It's in-tank pump. Apparently the connector that comes on the Hondata fuel pump doesn't really fit. The tabs are on a different side. They give you a little tool to pop off the connector. It tells you to mark, where the black pin is on the factory connector and pull these pins out. So what you want to do is we want to use the OE connector with the new updated pump. The black one is in there. I felt it pop all the way in and drag. We're going to have to come back out to actually install the pump. The little locking tab kind of you usually see on like emblems or something like that. They kind of stick out. It was on the bottom of the pump. Looks like it helps the pump stick into the filter. So I popped that off there. I'm going to go ahead and just put that onto the new pump. That way there's a new locking tab on there as well. It's kind of fit on loose. I'm going to bend these tabs back down and stick it back on.
So on the stock pump, there's this little nylon spacer or washer. And that's going to transfer onto the new Hondata pump. And then they also provided 2 new O-rings in this bag with a new fuel filter. And those 2 O-rings will slide right on top of there.
As well as the special jelly that goes on top of that.
Now the pump housings all clicked into the actual cage. It's a matter of running those pins back into the connector, connecting this portion back into the other side right here.
So I'm going to go ahead and stick this OE connector in here first without the cables in there. I marked where the black line goes, just because it wasn't fitting in there right, so I just want to make sure the pins slide on right. So that one went all the way on, I felt that. I was having a hard time with the red one last time, the power wire. Get into the right spot. It wants to twist on me because it's like, it wasn't naturally in that position. There we go. Alright, like I said, it's kind of funky, so I'm going to use this tool to push on the back of the pin just to make sure it's there. See? I feel like it clicked all the way in. Now the pin slid on the pin.
Once you've dropped the fuel cage, pretty much bolt everything back in, tighten that ring, get your connectors, well, those are like fuel hoses.
Yeah.
And then get your cover lid back on. Well, first you're just going to connect it before actually putting it back on and just test and make sure that the pump is activating. So again, after installing that pump in the tank, before even putting that parcel cover back on, going to go ahead and start the car, make sure that that low pressure pump is sending fuel. We'll give that a shot here in just a sec. We're reinstalling our intake box, which we had removed because in the midst of the install of the Hondata fuel system upgrade, we were also installing the Sirimoto Flex Fuel Kit. Shout out to Sirimoto, such a cool product. This is already in as well. We're just waiting to finish the Hondata kit in order to verify the proper installation of the flex fuel, start it up and get it dialed up. So we gotta get the battery back in there. So here will be our first fire up with the upgraded low pressure fuel pump. Our Honda technician here, Mr. Pi.
This has to cycle the key a few times just to prime the pump. There's no fuel in there. Since we do have our Sirimoto kit installed already, we should see our actual ethanol content of our, it's currently 100 octane. Hondata, look at that. So if I'm not mistaken, right now our current ethanol content just from our pump gas, which is Sunoco 100 pump race fuel, it's actually at 8.2% ethanol. Before adding any added ethanol, that's just the Sunoco 100 out of the pump. Has 8.2%, so that's a good starting point.
So on the 100 octane we had pumped in there, looks like it measured about 8.2, 8.5 ethanol percentage. We've actually got a fresh jug of ethanol that we got at the gas station. You can see right here. And we're going to be putting that into the car once we're done with the high pressure fuel pump from the Hondata fuel kit and the injectors. So now we're just going to disconnect that low pressure fuel pump, fire up the car one more time until it dies, to relieve the pressure off the fuel rail and fuel lines.
Mostly to relieve the high pressure side.
Stayed on longer. It's crazy because I think because of the better output from this pump.
Well, because I guess, you know, earlier the car had been sitting, right?
There you go.
Earlier the car had been sitting like overnight and
Yeah.
started for the first time. So this one the car was just running.
Yeah. All right, so we took the clip off that goes to the low pressure fuel line here, remove the cover, access cover to the high pressure pump. So here's the actual stock high pressure pump. Chris is just gonna blow some compressed air. That way when we remove the pump, because it is driven by the cam, there is no linen, debris, or anything falling into the engine. Make it easier on us. So next step is we got to take off the intake manifold to get ready for the injector removal. We'll go ahead and get that portion going. So Chris already got one of the high pressure fuel lines out. That's out now. We're just we're looking at the comparisons of the actual line and the size of the orifice on both ends. And it's significant. It's definitely a big difference. You might be able to kind of see.
Right.
All right, he's done it. The injectors are out, fuel rails out. So we're gonna get these injectors off the rails and just make some comparisons between the stock and the upgrade. Kind of see what's going on.
Just a quick install tip. So when I pulled the 10s from the rail, I went ahead and yanked the rail, just the whole unit, and it came out with the injectors I got left. So I'm lubing up the O-rings here on the injectors, so when I slide them back into the fuel rail, they don't get kinked or caught or nothing like that. So I just put a good amount on the top part, this mating part. Then I'm gonna swap over these retainers from the stock injectors, put them on the Hondata injectors, and install them on the rail. And it's pretty simple. The only thing you were swapping over is that retainer. You're sliding it right back in to your fuel rail. All right, so just my experience with doing high pressure fuel injectors on Porsches and stuff like that is, you know, they gotta pop that thing back in. So I try to put it on one even. You know, I located each tip, evenly applied pressure, and I felt the injectors pop in. There's a nice little locating pin right there. That way you make sure you put it on in the right direction. So we'll push the line on first, get the thread started on the banjo, and they're secure. We'll get a wrench or a socket, torque that down.
So on the high pressure fuel pump, there are two 5mm Allens. One that comes on the side, one on the opposite. We already got those off, ready to yank this pump out. So there's a stock pump.
We already went ahead and put our super juice all around the O-ring. You know, you don't want to snag an O-ring. Make sure it's nice and lubricated so it slips in properly. It's always better wetter. The good thing is Hondata was nice enough to make sure the injector connectors just plug right in. I'm modifying.
All right, so since in our particular application, we got the 91 octane with the Hondata fuel system and the flex fuel enabled, we're gonna go ahead and choose that map. Excellent. And then here it'll give you options to kind of add your add-ons, whatever you've got. If you got an intake, you know, we've got the Mishimoto intake, so So go ahead and start adding those parameters as you click them, which is super easy. All it takes is a click to add and add a bolt-on. So now we jumped over to the FlashPro Manager to get our calibration going. So we know that we have the 91 octane Hondata fuel system, flex fuel enabled. Again, since we did the Hondata fuel kit, we also did the Sirimoto flex fuel kit. So now we actually have to go to the fuel pump tab here, and then it's gonna require for us to put our serial number in and our software key. Make sure you have those two, because without that, you will not be able to use the kit. Now all that's left is loading the map up to the car, turning the car on, and having some fun. All right, so we're gonna flash the map for the first time and go from there. Initial startup after the fuel kit, here we go.